Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Look who I found. She is a storyteller. She is a healer. She's a Heyoka, which we'll get into.
Heyoka, yeah.
We talked about that last time we got together. Janis Reed joins us. How you doing, Janis?
I'm doing better than I was earlier this morning. We had a rainstorm here and all the lines went out and I didn't even know about it. So I kept wondering why you never called.
Yeah, I did. I got your voicemail. You're up in the mountains somewhere. Where are you?
I'm in Western Grayson County of Virginia. This is where the highest mountains of Virginia are. So Grayson County, everything falls down from here.
Well, along those lines, technical difficulties. Now, we're experiencing them, but I don't think we mean in the general sense. We're all experiencing some at this point in time in our lives, on our timeline, technical difficulties. You mentioned that before we even started. Explain.
It's a little bit like an astrological timeline or a planetary timeline. You might notice if you look at astrology, they tell you all sorts of things. But if you look at astronomy, then you can see where different planets have lined up in ways that they just haven't done in a long time. And some of them never before in our, certainly not in our lifetimes. But their proximity to the planet, this is me talking, you may or may not, don't call me any bad names. Their proximity to the planet causes us to react, sort of like feeling heat from a fire. You get so close, to stand back, but you feel the heat from a long way off. A planet is sort of like that, moving through the atmosphere, that we feel it moving past us. Women tend to feel it more than men do. Men laugh at us, but then they don't make babies. So it's a part of being connected with the universe to be aware of changes and be accepting of that. It happens all the time, just every once in a while, like now, with so many planets all bunched up together, it feels like a lot at once.
Is this more stronger in terms of the lining up of the planets than usual?
Feels like it. This is I don't recall having lived through this phase exactly before.
Okay. And you've lived a lot of phases. I don't mean that in age. I mean in terms of your life. I think we talked about past life regression before.
Yes. And I was born in July. So, I go through my phases.
Interesting.
I'm a moon sign.
So how do we navigate, in this planetary alignment and the, potential technical difficulties for a lot of us? What do we do? Suggestions for that?
Sure. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I let go. I'm learning how. Several years ago, I got this message in the back of my head that says, you better learn how to hold on very loosely or you'll lose it. And I thought about that for a little bit. And I thought, well, if I hold on really loosely, then that just means holding my hands open. And open hands means you're ready to receive. So I just stopped trying to hold on really tight to anything. I lost a lot of acquaintances. They just kind of disappeared from my charts, just kind of faded out as I faded out from them. And I have been kind of holed up with myself. Feels pretty good, but I don't have as many expectations. Therefore, I don't have as many disappointments.
Sure. And that was a conscious effort you made to just hold on loosely, so to speak, where it just, whatever the universe is going to serve you with, it's going to serve you with, instead of trying to make it do something with relationships.
Oh, you can make it do something. You can expect the very best for every soul involved, all the way across the board. Nobody hurts, nobody feels like a loser. If you can imagine a thing perfectly so, just perfectly, it tends to manifest. So rather than ignoring the people that aren't working with you, wish them well, make it a good story, and expect the best. That's how you know what the best is when you receive it. How's that?
Interesting way to look at it. And why would you want to wish ill on anybody anyway, because I'm a believer in karma. Would you put out there, you're gonna at some point invariably it's coming back some way, somehow, some shape, some form.
Well, it's pretty easy. There's a lot of religious jargon, geometrical jargon, pseudo whatever jargon, ways that people use to talk about it. So I'll use my own language. We're all a part of the same unit. We are all a part of the same first imagination that created all of life. Now, whether that was some joker in the back room shooting out craps against the wall, or if it was a holy structure in the sky, at some point everything started. And at that point, we are equal. So rather than look at people for who they are now, remember they call it oneness. Oneness. What does it mean to be at one with other people? Well, it means to remember that you are one with other people. We are the other people. And I would like to wish the other people well, because in a selfish way, that's wishing me well too. When people are well, they tend to be happier, more accepting. When we are at one with someone, our child, our best friend, me and you talking, hopefully with whoever's listening. When we connect with someone on a really, you're my cousin. You're just a cousin I had met before, on that level, instead of, oh my goodness gracious, you're a stranger. When we see each other as related already, we are at one. And by being at one, you and I can both relax, drop our shoulders, drop our guards, and be more honest with each other without the fear of repercussions because someone wasn't being honest with us. That's a lot of words.
It's a nice way to look at things though when everything's even. This
Yeah.
person is no better than that other person, and we're all, again, like you said, one. It's
Mhm.
it's actually a great feeling, when you meet a stranger.
It is. It is. I have had the most interesting conversations with street people and strangers that I've literally backed into that, hey cousin, how you doing? Hadn't seen you in 3 or 4 lifetimes. And we catch up on the kids and the nonsense, and buy our milk and bread and go on.
Wow. You
But
you
we
have an interesting way of looking at things, and it's kind of refreshing. Got to tell you that, Janis.
I did a lot of unrefreshing things to get here. Uh, I dare say I have not always been refreshing. In order to really appreciate, sometimes we have to understand what lack means. Lack of being heard makes me really appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And somebody told me this once, and I always remembered it. When you want to make a change in your life, you have to go through the birth canal, like a baby being born. It can't be a great experience. It's got, until you're
Yeah,
born. And I don't mean, religiously reborn. I just mean a different phase of your life, or moving along on your journey.
we change second by breath, by second, by moment.
Yeah.
Whether we've learned something, we learned something, we're different than we were before we learned it. Move along. Don't get trapped in the past.
I am going to go back to what you said about holding on loosely. And I think there is something very strong about that, because nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in life. You could have the best job in the world and you're gone tomorrow. There's no loyalty nowadays, like it was maybe 30 years ago. Same thing in relationships, whether it's a relationship of 10, 20, 30, whatever, it could change tomorrow. The person that you had a relationship with, whether it was a partner or a friend, they could change. They could be gone. So I think there's something very strong in what you said about holding on loosely.
Yeah, we need to appreciate the moment, what we
Mhm.
have. We can all dream for something different. Gosh, I wish I was taller. But then if on the flip side of that, I don't have to wipe off the top of the refrigerator because I don't know what's growing up there.
Right. Yeah. Accept what you have and appreciate it.
Take the win.
And with
Take the win.
the hold on loosely thing, that's for possessions too. We get, and I did at one point, got stuck into, I need that house and I need this. No, it gone. It could be gone in a second. So why hold on to it like it's your next breath? You need that to breathe. You don't. You really don't.
Yes, I've surprised a few people because I did not take the bait. I packed my ditty sack and I left. There's just no reason to put up with some things. And people forget how easy it is to just pack a toothbrush and your wallet and your passport. And you can sell bottles along the way.
I can totally relate. I just left a house. Now I'm in a smaller place, downsized, things going on a journey. But when I look at, I could be mobile now. I could leave in a second because now I got rid of a lot of the possessions. And how important were they anyway? Not really.
Well, everything's temporary, even our skins.
Sure.
So enjoy it. People tend to enjoy their skins in different ways. Go for it, but don't waste it.
But even your skin is temporary. The cells that are here, they'll be gone in 5 minutes to be. It's something different.
Everything is temporary. Yeah. Everything is temporary. As the winds blow the whatever pieces that make us our world, when it blows them around, they touch different bases, like ball room when it's full of balls. When the balls touch as they roll around, they're the same the balls, but they're touching in different places, so it's different circumstances.
Right, and as they could be rolling, they're touching in different ways along the way, and that's just life. Because now they're going to separate into a different configuration. I.e., things.
Learn to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Learn to enjoy that instead of saying, "Well, I was just getting used to it," which was my byline for a long time until I gave up and just said, well, this is the day the Lord hath made. Dang it, I'll rejoice and be glad in it. And well, some days are still more interesting than others.
Oh yeah, well,
but here we are.
When we mix in those technical difficulties from the alignment of the planets, makes it a little interesting. Things are different stuff going on, I guess. Different way to look at it.
People get caught up in believing that their possessions, even their bodies, their understandings, are going to be here forever. I'm getting older, and because my brain works cockeyed, I've been trying to imagine what my prodigy will make of my world. You know what? They hardly know any of it, and they live through a lot of it, but they don't know it from my side. They don't see it from my side. What they would rather forget, me too, caused shifts that allowed for other things, compassion, empathy, with other people going through uncomfortable changes. But eventually, if you stop focusing on how uncomfortable it is that you no longer have to take care of your great big house, that you don't have to pay insurance on that great big house, that you don't have to keep up with all those things that filled up your great big house. If you focus on that, you're going to hate moving where you have. But if you think liberation, you'll have a good time. So you held on loosely, you held on to what meant something to you, and let go all that other extra fluffiest stuff. Good move.
Well, interesting you should say that, because I had an epiphany just about 2 years ago, and I used to love mowing the lawn. I had a ride-on mower. It was an old one, but I loved it, and it was where I would think.
Oh, that smell! I love that smell.
Yeah, and it's just the drone of the motor, where you just put you into a zone where you can think. The drone gives you the zone. So I'm mowing the lawn, and I had something drop out of the sky, and it was like, I'm done doing this. Like, I don't need to do this. I came. I conquered, and it's okay to move on. And then, fast forward, not even knowing, a year and a half later, I did, sold it and moved on. And
What fell out of,
I'm
I'm
sorry,
so curious. What fell out of the sky?
adjust something into my head. I could tell you the exact spot on the lawn where I was like,
Wow,
oh, I don't do this anymore. Wow. Um, and the
that
song
was a
by,
clue.
yeah, I believe so. And the song by Fleetwood Mac, Dreams, was in my head playing. And that song kept playing after that, like even, months after that. And part of it is what you had and what you lost. And I drove past the house after selling it about 6 weeks ago with my
Uh-huh.
daughter. And we kind of looked at each other and we said, this is kind of awkward going down this street, isn't it? Like we thought we would be like, oh, there's the house. It wasn't like that. It was more of a like, oh, all right. I like where I am now. Me too. So
Yes,
you don't know
yes.
until you go. You don't know until you go.
Mhm.
The whole
My dad was really good at what he did. So we moved every 12 to 18 months, whether we wanted to or not, because somebody had outbid dad's price. Uh, 13 schools before I got out of high school. My sister the same. Little brother, he chickened out. He had to only do 11. Um, but I learned to move and see that everybody was the same, except they talked funny in the north.
Thank you very much. People tell me I sound generic. I just have a generic sound. I don't know. Because if I'm in from New York, there's
It's
talking.
the radio voice.
Well, I never went to school for it. I just talk. But so you can plug me pretty much into any area, and I guess I would fit in. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't have that New York accent, but yeah, you've experienced some interesting things moving around that many times. You talk about holding on loosely. You never know what's coming next. Your parents may say, "Guess what? In 3 weeks, we're moving," and that can be a very big deal for a lot of people. But you got used to it, and it became a way of life for you. And I think maybe it's kind of dictated your mentality, right?
Right, right. About third grade, I was being bullied a lot because I was little and different and the newcomer, the new kid.
Sure.
And
I was
that
bullied.
was what that was what saved me from having to go to the principal's office, because in my mind I looked at them through squinted eyes and thought, go ahead, be mean. I'm out of here in a few weeks.
Yeah. Wow.
They got to stay with it. I got to leave.
Interesting. And it's funny that you knew that in your mind that I'm not going to stay with these people anyway. So dish it out if you want.
Right. Right. The only people that meant much to me were my family when we went back home to home, to what my parents called home. But they had met in high school. So both their families lived in the same town. And when it came time for family reunions, I thought I was related to everybody in the whole wide world
Mm.
because most of the town showed up. They were either from my mom's side or my dad's side, but it was true.
Wow. Huh. So
So
what brought you
they were
to?
all storytellers.
Oh, well, I'm going to get to that in a sec. But Janice, what brought you to Virginia?
A bus,
And why
trailways,
there?
I think.
Yeah. And why
Uh,
there?
my parents lived here. I was actually living down on Bleecker Street when the first trade towers were attacked and that parking garage went up in smoke. And I calculated with roughly that had that building fallen sideways, it would have taken out our doorman. And I thought it was time to leave New York. And my parents had extra room and they were getting older. My grandmother had moved in with them, so I was being of help. And I just did what every good Southern girl does. I went home to mama.
Wow. Had no idea
Um,
you were in the New York area.
yeah,
Hmm.
I lived in Coolsville.
Interesting. Wow. Which do you like better? Yeah, you're a Southern girl, I guess, at
Oh,
heart.
here.
Yeah, by far.
Hmm. I love the city. New Yorkers are some of the best people I have met. Really. And I've met some great people, but as a community, I always felt welcomed and loved and cared for. I never had any problems with anybody bad. I don't know, maybe it was just me. Um, I love New York, but I love here on top of these mountains even better. It's quiet, the air is clean. There's waterfalls right outside my window, little short waterfalls going over the rocks in the creek. It's a flat bottomed rock creek, so it never really goes dry. I'm hoping that's true with all the droughts going on, but it empties into the New River. I'm very close to that. It's like the second oldest river on the whole planet. And it's just down the street. I live among greatness.
Hmm. You know, the one thing I envy about, I have friends that live upstate New York in the mountains and the waterfalls. And isn't it something refreshing about a waterfall, aside from the sound and how tranquil it is, but just the refresh of it, just being near it. You don't even have to be in it, but you feel
No.
cleansed, and it's always moving like life,
Mhm.
you know?
Cleans the air, changes all the, I want to say pheromones. It's like the chi in the air, just life force in the air here. It comes straight up out of the creek. It vents through these things like that look like the Smoky Mountains, that smoky part. That's where I live. And those little smoky vents bring life, oxygen up. And it does, it'll cure your health up here.
I'll bet. And go into New York City and look at the difference.
I was thinking about that. It's been 30 years since I've been up there, and a lot has changed.
Yeah. Yeah. But the air is it's the same type of air. Go on a 90-degree day, go on a New York City subway.
It's New York.
It's
It's
New
New
York.
York.
It is what it is. Embrace it. There's a lot of
It
good there as
is.
well. Yeah.
It's not Pecos, Texas.
No, no. And I'm only an hour away, hour and 20-minute train ride from New York City. And it's a great place. Hardly ever go there unless I have a reason to go. Because I like suburbs. I like trees, grass, and fresher air. Sometimes you forget to embrace that though and appreciate that.
Yeah, people start looking around for what all they don't have, and they forget all these wonderful things they have.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's we have like a minute or so left. What's
Oh
on your
my.
mind? Yeah, what's on your mind these days? What are you thinking about? I know you're a yoga, which is a storyteller. I'm giving the basic version of that. Uh,
Okay, okay.
yeah. And last time you told a great story. Um, what's on your mind these days? Is there anything that resonating with you?
Well, it really is technical difficulties. If I might go back to that,
Sure.
I like circle dances. The technology is moving faster than our sensibilities can keep up with. It's nice to be able to do these things, but should we? My husband and I have been in a back and forth. He stores everything to the cloud. He really likes that. And he stores it on disks and he stores it on these little plug-in jabs. And I'm all for writing it down because if the satellites go out, zzz, goes the electronics, but you can still read a book. How old is the Gutenberg Bible? I mean, books can last a pretty long time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so technical difficulties as we go through these changes, quit leaning maybe so much on our technical things. See, I can't even say it. My mouth is dry. And lean on our neighbors, lean on ourselves instead of trying to Google it or look it up on a search engine. Figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, uh,
Interesting way to look at that. Yeah, because what did we do? Can you imagine even 30 years ago when the phone rang?
yeah, I can.
House. And my mom still had kept a rotary phone up until she passed 3 years ago, and she would always say, "Yeah, well, when the cell service goes out or there's a problem with the internet provider, that phone's going to ring." But the funny thing is, every time it would ring, she'd be like this because it was so loud. She wasn't used to
They
it.
rang. Yeah, I have one. It's an old stand-up phone from the 60s. It looks like something out of a space model. It's pink, and the ringer's broken on it, but it's a dial phone. I believe in dial phones.
Yeah.
I like old-fashioned hands-on manual things that I actually can do outside of all this technical stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's something to be said about it because like we're just mentioning technical difficulties, nothing's paper and a pen guaranteed. As long as there's a fire or a flood, put it in a safe spot, you're going to be okay. And research proven that when you actually write something, your brain is making a connection and you're retaining it better as opposed to just typing it and just on to the next thing.
Right. Same with stories. Stories make us relax. They let our guard slip down and we absorb the information, even though we may not understand what the words all mean because we're too young.
Yeah.
Stories are great ways to transmit information. Stories force us to be empathic with the story, to become one with it. Whereas text or just information, bip, 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 that stuff's easy to forget.
But in all this technology, nothing beats somebody else next to you telling you something, a story, or recounting something from the past. It's different when you watch it on a screen than if somebody's right in the same room with you. And granted, during COVID, Zoom and everything, so beneficial, still is today. We're on a Zoom. I'm not there, you're not here. All good, but there is just, and what is it? It goes back to ancient times when people used to tell stories. That was it. That's how they communicated. That's how they shared things, shared the past, their family, their roots, and all of that.
We connected with each other. We didn't try to, we needed to lean on each other to survive. So we tended to be more trusting, cautious, but more open with sharing ourselves because, they looked at us and saw us do it anyway. We might as well talk about it.
Right.
Nowadays, people, we looked at them, we've got them on film, but they will deny.
So the proof is there. So, well, listen, Janis, we're just about out of time. Always great talking with you. Can we, next time we get together, last time you told a great story. I'd love to hear another one.
What do you want to hear about?
I don't know. You got to tell me. We'll table that for next time.
All right. You're on.
Barring,
thank you for your patience with me.
Barring that there's no technical difficulties.
I've got a dial phone.
Yeah, we can do it that way too. We actually can do it that way. All right, Janis, thank you so much. If somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Oh, email me at goddessjanis@hotmail.com. That is, let me spell it, GODDESSJANIS.
Excellent. All right.
At Hotmail. Ta-da.
At Hotmail. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, Janis.
Enjoy the day, everybody. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.